Hey there, all you queens and cryptids, and welcome to Queer and Loathing, the only podcast worth its weight in Bitcoin. I'm your host, Brett Bodie, and with me, as always, are my co-hosts.
I'm Mel.
I'm Samantha.
And today we'll be talking about the movie Tremors.
Yay!
The 1990 classic monster movie.
Absolutely, and we had previously maybe recorded a version of this, in the sense that we said it aloud and the recording equipment was not on. But I keep eyeing the recording button this time, so we should be good.
Still
and
good.
In that intro, I referred to it as the hit film Tremors, but apparently that was not really the case.
I corrected you.
Uh-huh.
So we'll start this time with a little history about Tremors. So in preparation for this, but also because I love Tremors and was happy to do it anyway, I watched Tremors again with Samantha on my beautiful newish, it's a few years old, but I have a 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray of Tremors that I got. It's an Arrow Video, and I will say they have some of the best DVD releases
They
ever.
do such a great job with their releases.
It's amazing. The art is beautiful, and the special features are numerous. And something that was included was multiple commentary tracks, multiple different releases of it. So I watched the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray because I can do such a thing, so I will. And
no one can stop me.
and no one can stop me except my Blu-ray player. And a bunch of documentaries, some of which were filmed for this release, I think. So a lot of Tremors knowledge is now in my head. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But what they were talking about, because while we are getting older, we are...
Wow.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
I've been drinking a lot of blood, specifically so that doesn't happen. So.
Were either of you alive in 1990?
No, because I'm so young.
So I was.
I'm the baby of the pod.
So I was alive in 1990, but I was not making memories yet. So this is a movie from 1990. So while, we are older than Gen Z, I will put it diplomatically.
Thank you for your diplomacy.
Taking my supplements now. I'm of that age.
We are not old enough to have remembered this movie coming out, is what I mean. So this movie bombed at the box office, or at least it just did not do well at all, which was a huge disappointment to the people making it, obviously, because they poured their heart and soul into it. And some people, like Kevin Bacon, he was really hoping this was going to revive his career, because he said that, this was in the documentary, that his money had basically dried up post Footloose. And he was it's usually not a good sign for actors, especially young male actors, if you go from leading man to horror monster movie.
That's true. It's generally considered a step back in one's career.
So it did originally not do well because of the marketing, and we'll get into this. It's a really unique movie, at least of its time. Nothing had ever been like this before, and the studio didn't know quite how to market it. So I think it came out trying to be a big, scary horror movie, which it has some good scares in it.
It does, but I'd say it's more thrilling and charming than scary.
Yeah, I can watch it without covering my eyes. So.
But I can imagine it would be tough to market because it is such a great movie, but it has such a unique tone and setting. And you don't associate broad daylight in the desert with scary monster movies. So that must have been a tough sell for audiences since they chose to market it that way.
And I think the two movies that come to my mind that I think are similar in some ways are Jurassic Park, which came after this movie, and Jaws, which is its own sort of thing, right?
I think those are good comparisons.
They're all different from each other, but when I think of movies that kind of have this adventurous, clever, tight feeling, those are the three that come to my mind. I will say Tremors is my favorite of those three.
Wow, and that's,
And I mean that in a way that...
Well, exactly. I'm because those are three great films. There's no losers in that list.
They're all infinitely rewatchable, but Tremors is the one closest to my heart.
Yeah, let's talk about you guys' history with the franchise.
Well, we'll start with you, because you're the newest to this franchise.
I am. Thank you. I'm a recent convert. So I had always heard about the movie. I kind of knew I'd love it. You know, Mel and Sam both always enjoyed it.
Heard us talk about it.
Yeah, I would hear them talk about it. But I only watched it for the first time maybe a couple years ago. Maybe it's more like 5. I don't know how time works. And I refuse to learn.
It's a flat circle or whatever.
That's right. I did watch True Detective season 1, so
no,
I
it's
do
like
know that.
a piece of paper that you fold in half and then stick a pen. No, that's
a
Event
wormhole.
Horizon.
That's a tesseract.
No.
Okay, I think I'm losing information about time. But I've seen it maybe like 3 or 4 times now. And so I guess I didn't watch it young enough for it to have made that kind of like lifelong impression on me where it's one of my favorites. But I gotta say, what a fantastic movie this is. So I'm a big fan. I may have come late to it, but I tell you what, this is highly recommended. It is such a great time. And yeah, just infinitely rewatchable. So I'm only on 3 now, but just you wait. Yeah, Sam, you want to go next?
I'm just thrilled that you enjoyed it, because I can't imagine if you came into this room and told us you didn't enjoy it, like what would happen.
That would be some real drama.
It would be bad.
We'd have to leave that episode in the vault.
We would have to. We would.
For my own safety.
I don't know. I might have to like leave myself in the vault. I don't know.
We'd have to leave all 3 of us in separate vaults.
I mean, I think I would just start getting pretty agitated because I'd want to understand. Because
it's like, what's not to like?
Well, you and I don't have the exact same movie taste.
No.
But I think Tremors is such a broadly appealing movie that I think someone who has good movie taste and at least likes adventure movies.
Sure. Yeah.
Like if you're only watching the Christmas Switch or whatever, those like if that's all you'll watch, like this isn't for you. There's romance in it.
But Tremors 8 was just announced that it is starring Vanessa Hudgens.
But if that's the only kind of movie you watch, okay, maybe this isn't for you. But if you're a normal, well-adjusted human being who likes action movies or fun adventure films, I don't know if I could understand a person not liking at least the first Tremors.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just not doing okay.
Maybe.
They just need to see it another time. But yeah, I'm still stuck on Tremors 8 with Vanessa Hudgens, and I want to add Glenn Powell.
Oh, yes.
Of, what is that movie?
Anyone But You?
Anyone But You.
We watched it.
We watched.
Did you?
It was weird.
It was so weird.
It was a weird movie. She sticks.
There was a graboid there. That was her.
Sydney Sweeney stuck her finger in his butthole.
Yeah, why? I still don't know why.
It should have been me.
I mean, the franchise is not above adding random ass people to it, so it's possible.
I could see Glenn Powell in it. Okay, but yeah, so the question was my time with Tremors, my history of Tremors. I first watched it when I was 10 or 11 at my godsister's because she loved the movie, and I distinctly remember watching it in her home and loving it. And I was nervous because, again, I'm a little scaredy cat, and so I was nervous during it, but really overall it was fun. I loved it then. I love it now. I've watched it a million times. I've never gotten tired of it. And I'm just talking about the first one. I've seen 2 and 3, and I've seen them a few times, not nearly as much. And it's been a long time. But, Brett, what you said about the scenery, I think it's just absolutely gorgeous. And then, especially on Mel, your 4K edition, extra beautiful.
It's glorious.
Oh, I bet. Hey, even my rental from Prime on my big ass TV looked really good, so I can only imagine.
And just the characters and how they interact. And I just think it wasn't, the script itself wasn't wasteful. Every part of it had meaning, and I love little hints at what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just full of it. In a good way. Not full of it, but full of good things. Yeah, okay. Mel, your turn.
The impression, just talking about the writing, the impression I got from listening to the writers talk about the movie and their process, it seems like one of them does most of the bulk of the plotty writing, and then another one comes in and adds all the jokes.
Okay.
And it works really well for them. The tone of this movie is really fun, but not so goofy that you don't feel the stakes for these people.
That's a good way to put it.
But to answer your question, Tremors is one of those movies that I would say like Jurassic Park or like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I don't remember the first time I watched it. I've just been watching it since I popped into having—
As soon as you could.
As soon as I started being a human being and having memories and putting together complex thoughts, graboids were there. I truly have brain worms, y'all. But unlike topical reference RFK Jr., my brain worm moves through alluvial soil of my brain. I have loved this movie since I can remember. I think I mentioned it on our first intro podcast that I love this movie and did not have any friends who had seen it when I was a kid. And when I would have friends come over, I would make them watch it with me. And unfortunately, they didn't like it so much because we were like 10 or 11 or whatever, and it was too scary for them. But now as an adult, I will say, if you have not seen Tremors and you're listening to this, pause this episode.
Yeah.
But you have to come back.
Yeah, but do yourself a favor.
Go watch
and watch this movie because it's so good.
If you know
so
me,
fun.
If you know me personally, hit me up, buy me some food or something, and you can watch my 4K Ultra HD version with me again, because I will always watch this movie. I love it. The more I watch it, the more I like it, which isn't always the case.
I get that. Like, you always love it, but like some movies, you grow in like your appreciation of it the more you kind of develop your maybe film knowledge and taste.
Totally. And I would say, like, while this movie is tight, it's fairly simple. It's not overly chewy. Like, I wouldn't say it's like a Nope where you can sit there and chew on the themes forever.
No.
They basically wanted to make a monster movie with smart rednecks who are able to think through plans and do things in ways that are believable for their characters, right? But also smart monsters that aren't just, I don't know, like mindless
eating machines.
Right. Or just like easy to destroy. Because it's like, Romero talks about how, or I saw some interview with him where he talked about how his zombies would actually be quite easy to defeat. It's just people cannot communicate well enough to do that. The Graboids are like, you have to communicate with people because the Graboids are like a step ahead of you.
Right, like it literally takes a village.
It does, a village of 14.
Yes. Perfection, Nevada.
Most of the people who die first are by themselves or in just a couple.
That's true.
So basically, to explain the movie, it takes place in Perfection. I'm going to say this word right. Nevada?
Yep.
Is that how you say
got
it? Nevada. I mean, is it a real place? Not Perfection, but Nevada.
I can neither confirm nor deny.
I don't know. But it takes place in this tiny, tiny town, which is integral to the plot. Because like a lot of times, movies that are, Hollywood movies, they'll take place in a rural area because they want to film by LA, but not in LA. So they take place in rural areas. The same case here, except it works perfectly for this film because they need to be isolated for the threat to really work. The characters, some of them, two of the characters specifically, are like survivalists, weirdos, who like have their bunker out there. Our main characters, Earl and Val.
Valentine
and Earl are like failed handyman cowboy guys.
Like, basically just like do odd jobs for all the townspeople, and they kind of hate it. Maybe they've got like dreams of doing something else, but no follow through.
Yeah,
they have dreams of dreams. I don't think they've gotten to the dreams yet, but they're like, maybe I would have a dream at some point. I could get out of here.
That is where they're at.
They're simple men with simple wants. They just want to drink their beer out of their toilet.
They do, which is so funny. They're sitting on the like discarded couches, like with the toilet bowl. It's a bromance for the ages.
Oh,
truly.
yeah.
Their rapport is just so wonderful.
I don't think the movie would have worked if they had just had like one, handyman guy who would be the hero.
Or if they were more mismatched of like, oh, well, there's the smart one and the dumb one, something like that. Because they both have their moments to shine. Or
if it was like a buddy cop where they don't like each other and then I think the fact that we meet them, the first line in the movie is Stampede, which is what Kevin Bacon is saying to wake up Earl,
who's like sleeping in the truck bed.
In the truck bed. And he starts jumping on the truck to make it seem like a stampede to scare him.
And then Earl like flops out like the sleeping bag. He like falls like head first like from the pickup truck, and it's so funny.
But they're constantly like I don't know, picking at each other and being
with each other all the time.
Yeah,
just lightly.
And a pattern for them that I love is that it's established right from that scene because they're like, I made breakfast yesterday and it was this. And like, no, it was eggs and I made it. And like, well, there's only one way to settle this.
Rock, paper, scissors.
And we see their first rock, paper, scissors, which they use several times throughout the movie.
And it continues on.
So cute. Like, it's just that like, almost movies. Like just guys being dudes who are friends. Like they're doing rock, paper, scissors and
we
drinking
really
their beer.
quickly get a grasp on their relationship. And we're like, okay, good. We've got that.
Yes, exactly.
That
they established
settled.
Yep.
And they had been talking about leaving Perfection for a long time, which is also established because at one point they're leaving and the blonde lady, as much as I've seen this movie a million times, I don't remember when it's
Rhonda. Well,
No.
wait, not Rhonda.
No.
Pottery lady. He's like, I need a new kiln because I have a bunch of new orders.
Yeah,
from...
Pogo Stick Mom. But like
Nancy?
Yeah. So she's or is that the daughter?
No, daughter's Mindy.
Mindy, that's
Daughter's
right.
Mindy.
So Nancy's like, oh, you guys always say that, but then she sees that they've packed up and they're actually leaving. Because they basically have like, they're hammering barbed wire into fence posts, which is like a famous scene because of how bad he is at hammering this fence post. In the documentary I watched, he's like, I'm actually better at hammering than that. It's like, Kevin Bacon,
Prove it, Kevin Bacon.
I appreciate that all these years later, like 30 some odd years later, you're like having to defend yourself.
Where's the TikTok proving it?
I haven't seen it. But like they do that and they're like, out in this, dirty, whatever the cat is. It's like the big trailer
it's like a tractor
thing.
Trailer, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tractor, I think, or something like that. And then they have like a septic tank explode in their face.
They're trying to empty a septic tank while Melvin, the shithead teenage boy, is like sitting on his porch watching them.
Like laughing at them.
Well, yeah, because he's like, I'm this close to leaving. And then Val's like, oh yeah, well, I call your bluff. And then they both just get covered in shit.
Yeah. And they're like, we're done.
Yeah, like now's the time. When you get sprayed in the face with a teenager shit who's there laughing at you, it's probably time to move on to greener pastures.
Yeah, and anywhere would be greener because it is very, very much desert out there. But so they start leaving and then like kind of the basic plot of this movie, just for those of you who are too obstinate to watch it, they're trying to leave. They keep stumbling across like dead bodies that are killed in ways that are mysterious and unexplained. And then slowly them and this small town, our ensemble cast, realizes there are underground worm monsters that are eating people and plucking them off the ground. And at some point, the one pass out of this valley gets blocked and they have no way of getting out. At least they don't really see an easy way out. So the movie is very simple in the sense of it's like they are trying to survive and escape the valley.
Huge valley.
It's huge. And there are 3. It begins with 3 graboids or 4? There are 4.
Yeah, I think there are 4. Yeah, Rhonda says it.
So the first one dies by smacking its head on the trench or
irrigation
whatever.
ditch.
Yeah, like a ditch.
Some concrete thing.
The second one gets killed by Reba McEntire and Bert.
Yes.
The third
Reba's
one,
in this, you guys.
Yeah, Reba, this was her first film debut.
Was it?
It was because she had some connection with the studio.
Okay, in my notes I was like, Reba's here.
Reba was
here.
There, and she's so young in it. It's before her TV show.
Yep.
So like she had only done music videos.
Okay.
So they were very pleasantly surprised that she was good.
She was good. Yeah, I agree.
And she was good. Everyone's good. Everyone's great in this movie. And then the third one they kill with the fishing with the bomb, the homemade bombs.
Right. Oh yes.
And then the fourth one is the stampede.
Is the last one.
So there are 4 of these giant monsters, and they basically have to kill them different ways because the worms keep learning. And so every time they feel like they figured something out, which is always satisfying in a movie when you have like smart characters that are like piecing things together. You're not yelling at the screen like, you idiots, just do this. Like,
right, and there's not an expert coming in to just spoon feed them what to do.
Right.
Like, I know all about these creatures and this is how you defeat them. It's like they just have to use their own deductive reasoning and come together and talk it out to figure out how to defeat these creatures. And especially since they can't really do the same method twice because they're so smart.
So in the commentary track I watched, it was with the 2 writers and the director. And they mentioned purposefully that they did not want that scientist character to know all about this for some reason that's unexplained. Because that is just how it was. Like, did you guys ever watch, like, old science fiction movies from, like, the 50s?
I've seen a couple on TV.
I've seen more than I'd care to. Against my will. As my father's child, I watched a lot of these, and they're quite boring, most of them, not all of them, but a lot of times it's just scientists talking in a room because that's cheap.
Right.
And then there's a few moments of cool monster stuff, but for the most part, it's scientists talking in a room. And for some reason, the scientists just like always know the answer and how to defeat the thing, and they figure it out. And in this one, we have a seismology grad student
yes,
who is coming out there to check on these seismographs that have been there before she came.
Yeah, she's just like the latest grad student to do this.
They always have some grad student that comes to check these machines. And
but this time it's a lady.
She's a lady. And she's also like, man, I think they're broken, because she knows something wrong with them. And she's like, oh, my whole like summer or whatever is going to be like a wash. But as the graboids are becoming more
active,
but also just like something that the townsfolk are noticing is a thing.
Sure.
They look to her for the answers, and she's like, how the hell am I supposed to know?
Right, and it's like she's not even a zoology grad student. Like, you know, she does vibrations in the ground.
She can say,
what is she going to know about a big worm?
But like, she's still useful because she says, okay, we can tell that there's 3 more, right? They kill one, and there's like, okay, there are 3 more according to these graphs.
And she's also very smart and helps our main characters figure stuff out, but it's not because of her expertise in science. She's just like another smart character.
And
it is really helpful for them to know, hey, there's 4 period, because if she wasn't there, they're like, are there hundreds of these things? Like,
oh yeah.
Right.
What are we dealing with? But at least we have some parameters here that she can provide.
There are rules, and she's not the only one who figures them out, but it's like, because, you know, Kevin Bacon, I think, is the one who first figures out that they're listening, because the worms can't see, which she notices, because they kill one accidentally, and they look at it. And there's like, oh, there are no eyes. And it clearly moves through the loose soil with its little, like, protrusion scale things. Yeah. And so at one point they're stuck on a rock because they realize it cannot go through rock because they watched one kill itself by going full speed into a rock. They're always learning. So they're standing on top of a rock, kind of stranded, and it doesn't leave. And they figure out, like, I think it's Kevin Bacon who realizes, oh, like, I think it's listening to us. And he just kind of says it, but she's like, oh, science speak of this is how it's a thing, right? So, like, the rednecks talk like rednecks, which I really appreciate. And apparently that was a problem with the studio because Fred Ward, who plays Earl, and Kevin Bacon, who plays Val, who are our leads, were peppering in more like curse words than the script had. Like, they said that there isn't a lot of improv in the script. There's only a few lines here and there, but they would pepper in some expletives to make it feel more rugged.
Yeah.
And then they had to remove them. So, like, if you look carefully, you can see their mouths are making curse words that did not make it into the final TV cut. Because this is like...
But for our deaf viewers, you get the full experience.
You got it.
It's a true, like, PG-13 movie. I think the word fuck is in there maybe 2 times.
Yeah, because there's a big fuck you. It's so good.
Yeah, Kevin Bacon is really masterful.
Oh, man, he is.
In this movie.
I love him in this.
That's basically the whole movie, is they're trying to figure out how to get out. They keep pivoting and doing new things. The worms keep learning. They may kill one, but then the next one learns from the last one's mistakes. So it's constantly like a battle of wits, and a bit of artillery on their end, but which I think makes it kind of interesting and fun. Like, I love a monster movie that also involves problem solving.
Totally.
Right? Like, I love me some Godzilla type movies, and for the good ones, there's a lot of science-y plotting of, like, how do you kill something that is so much bigger? And, like, they have all the firepower they could ever want because Bert is like a gun psycho, but he can't shoot through the soil.
Right. And then the worms get too smart for the bombs too, or at least Last Standing.
Yeah.
The last one does. Each movie has, like, a super worm that's like the main antagonist, which is kind of funny. The big bad. The big bad worm. In this one, it's one that you can tell it's different because they had shot off like one of its tentacles. So that's like the stumpy one that they know. In the second one, it had like swallowed a radio or something so they can hear it coming. But it's clever how they can give personality to what is just a big ol' worm.
Well, and like even not just how they attack the big ol' worms, the graboids, but because we see so many people at the beginning who have died because they could not escape. But with our character like Rhonda and Earl and Bacon, hiding on those rocks that Mel mentioned a little bit ago and noticing, oh, we're hiding on here. They cannot see us, but they feel our vibrations when we talk and that we're up here. So Rhonda finds some poles and they just pole vault.
I'm glad you mentioned
across the rocks and keep going. Like, who thinks about that? But yeah, so like the pole vaulting across, very resourceful.
Yes, and just such a charming scene. Like, I think that scene in particular just puts the biggest smile on my face. Because also they're like...
It's kind of fun.
Well, they're like... Because Rhonda does it first, I think. She kind of figures it out, and she just goes, she's like, do you guys know how to pole vault? Because I do, bye.
Well, they're ignoring her at first. Like, she figures it out, and they're just talking together.
Do it, basically, because they're ignoring her. But then they almost have like almost like trying to impress her, or even just like not lose face,
I think they're trying to impress each other.
Yeah, that's what I think what it is more also. And who fails the first time?
Earl.
It's so funny.
He doesn't quite make it and falls back against the same boulder. And it's just so cute.
And it's like, again, it's like tight. Like, okay, why would there be like perfect pole vaulting size poles there? But there's a bunch of other crap that's next to it. Like clearly someone was putting up fencing or something.
Right, and like Val's like using a 2x4 to like see if the graboids are still there. Yeah, there's a bunch of debris around, so it at least kind of makes sense.
It's kind of funny. So again, I was watching this commentary track, and they were talking about how they picked that location because there were all those rocks there. So the main rock that they're sitting on is a real rock, but they could not find the right rock formation for the stunt people to be able to do it. So all the other rocks are fake rocks, which was, I mean, they look great.
They do. I would never know.
But apparently it was just like troublesome for like the Foley people, or like the sound, because it was just like hollow rocks that they could hear people like walking around.
Same with the graboids. You could hear the people walking around.
That's true. Yeah, and I think that, like, one of the things that's so special about this movie is that it does have such a small cast of characters. Like, it's essentially both, like, an action-adventure thriller or whatever, but it's also almost like a chamber piece, because there's just this small town, and you see their little, interactions, and there's the single mom with pogo stick girl. And
which they established the pogo stick early on, because when Mindy starts, like, pogoing by, I think it's like Earl's like, which one are you on now? Because it's like, she does that all the time.
And she counts how many, successive pogos she's accomplished.
Y'all, we didn't have cool toys in the 90s, okay? Or the 80s is when this would have been.
We had Skip It.
We did have Skip It.
In 89? I don't know if we did.
No, I meant in the 90s. I'm sorry.
90s. Maybe if this was made in the 90s, she would have been doing Skip It. But pogo is such a good noise thing.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, so we have Chekhov's pogo stick.
Yes.
We have Chekhov's, refrigerator? Or is it the freezer? And what is it, Chang's?
Yes. So Walter Chang is played by Victor Wong, who they were so lucky to get him. I'd say, like, he's amazing. If you've seen, I don't know, movies in the 80s, like action movies and stuff, like, I know him predominantly because he was in Big Trouble in Little China.
That's what I know him from.
Yeah. And he was incredible, but he plays Walter Chang. So, again, something I just learned from listening to this commentary track is originally the character was Vietnamese, but Victor Wong said, I'm Chinese, can you rename the character? And they're like, yeah, why not? And they just did.
Good.
So, like,
love that.
Yeah, he helped come up with that,
That's good.
name. But basically, there's this general store where a lot of the movie does take place. And
it's almost like that's like where the community gathering spot. Like people will just hang out at the general store, and it becomes almost like headquarters for their efforts to defeat the graboids. And there is a phone. He has a phone, but it goes out pretty early on in the movie.
So they were lucky to get him because he's in big trouble in Little China.
And I love that, like, he just seems, like, nice and everyone seems to respect him, but also he's, like, hustling. Like, he's selling those, like, photos of the kids at one point. Then he, like, tries to buy
He buys the Graboid for $15. Well, he buys the tentacle
the
of the Graboid. Thing. And then turns his profit on it. And they're like, he's always, like, hustling us or whatever.
And then when they kill, or like the big Graboid like runs to the wall and dies, they're like, how are we going to haul it out of here? And like, we need to sell it for a lot more than $15.
Time for a little ad read?
Yeah, I think so.
So we have a special sponsor today. They reached out to me personally. Just wanted to make sure that it's more like a PSA, right? More than anything. So this episode is brought to you by microplastics. They say you are what you eat, so why not eat something that will definitely make you live forever, probably not give you horrific new types of cancer, probably. Studies show that if you have testicles, there are microplastics in them, and that seems super cool to someone like me who does not have them. Drinking water, use single-use plastic. Heating food in the microwave, use one of those to-go Tupperwares that will definitely melt into your food. I saw a TikTok the other day of a granny in like rural China cooking soup in a plastic grocery store bag over an open flame. And I thought, that's the spirit. You go, girl. Like, who gives a shit? We're all gonna die anyway. So, might as well go from the inside out. I don't know. We used to have these like microbeads in our toothpaste, and they wouldn't have done that to us if it was bad for us, right? So, yum yum, eat up your plastic, you piece of shit.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're enjoying your testicles filled with microplastics. I know I am. And I'm also enjoying our discussion of Tremors, which we're back to.
So, Brett, you mentioned that you had some things you wanted to talk about.
Yes, just a couple, like maybe like 3 scenes that I want to highlight because that we didn't already really discuss because I just love them. The first is when Val and Earl at the beginning of the movie are driving down the road and they see the truck and they're like, hey, isn't that the new grad student? It's a lady this time.
She'll have blonde hair,
I have it
green eyes.
Yes, okay, you will have long blonde hair, big green eyes, world-class breasts, ass that won't quit, and legs that go all the way up. And he's like so excited. Like he's just like so giddy, like this is like his spiel, but he's so excited.
And it's a perfect comedy shot because it pulls up and there's Rhonda with zinc on her nose, like PE teacher shorts.
Yes, and like her like kind of curly brown hair, and yeah, I wrote like what an uggo, even though she's like actually very pretty, but it's just like so not.
And then his look of disappointment.
Well, and then he's got this look of like disappointment / disgust, like for the rest of the conversation.
He looks disgusted.
And Earl is like being nice and like engaging with her, and yeah, and he looks straight up disgusted. But he also, which I liked, is that like he kind of knows what she's talking about. Like something like I think he mentioned, I don't remember what it was, but it was like he knew remembered the word seismograph when Earl didn't. Like Val was actually more kind of like following what she was saying, but like wouldn't even look at her because he was so disgusted that she did not have legs that go all the way up.
So the deep lore that didn't make it into the movie but was in a deleted scene I watched is Earl talking with Rhonda, trying to talk up Val because he wants, like the whole movie he's like trying to encourage, he's trying to encourage Val to go for Rhonda. And there is a scene where Earl says, Toronto, he went to college for a semester and dropped out. Oh. So I think it's supposed to be that like Kevin Bacon's character is like a little bit more academic.
I definitely did get that sense from that scene. But
so you intuited what was originally there in the writing.
I did. And that's economy of screenwriting.
Oh.
Or maybe I'm just really smart.
You're so smart.
I think that's it. I think it's the microplastics in my brain.
Yes.
They help the neurons connect. That's my
Stick
theory.
them together.
Yeah.
And there is
You melt them a little bit and the neurons just fuse. Yeah.
Well, then it becomes like a protective shell. Yeah.
Yes. And that's why my brain is so good, as you could tell
So good.
from how I welcomed us back from that ad break and how I didn't hit record the first time.
Well, you'll never mess that up again because you're so obviously traumatized.
Oh.
That's true. And then then I guess since we're already talking about them, I really loved the end of the movie, Val and Rhonda's scene.
Yeah.
They are clearly into each other. They didn't have some big love arc at all, but just they had to rely on each other so many times and just obviously bonded a lot and, kind of developed mutual admiration for each other. And they have the sweetest little goodbye and obviously they both want to kiss, but he doesn't instigate. So she's kind of okay, well, I guess I'll see you around. He was yeah. And Earl's just you fucking dumbass.
Do you want to hear the original ending?
Yes.
I was going to say, I dug deep into this.
I want to hear all of it.
So in the original ending, in the movie, there's a running gag that they don't know where their lighter is, right? There's always someone is trying to find the lighter. They can't find the lighter. So at the final scene where you have Rhonda and Kevin Bacon are talking and it's really awkward and she's so maybe we'll see you around sometime. And he's trying to play it cool, but is fumbling the bag in a big way.
Uh-huh.
And then she's okay, well, bye. What happens is they actually then just drive off and they're leaving Perfection and they realize she has the lighter, so they have to go back. And that's the original ending, is that they were driving back. However, when they did the original screening of it, the audience was shouting, "Kiss her, kiss her." So they did reshoots. And I think it was
a great call because I was
so cute.
And I'm not normally this person, but I basically was that person being "Kiss her," and he's "Oh yeah," because first Earl is disgusted, he slams his trunk, and Val goes, I know, I'm working up to it. And then he goes after her, and he's he says, I think he just gets "Rhonda, I just wanted to," and then they kiss. And I wrote in my notes, "Woo, love is real."
Yes.
Because I just thought it was so sweet.
I've never heard you say that.
And you never will again. So
Thank God
you're lucky this was recorded.
It only exists in Perfection.
Yes. But yeah, I just really this to me is such a perfect level of romance subplot where it's just kind of general, maybe some chemistry and mutual attraction. And then they kind of maybe they get together the very, very end. Yeah. That's I don't really need an ongoing will they, won't they, I think the level in this movie is exactly what I like.
It also works because everyone in the town knows each other so well because the town is so small and she's kind of the new person. So it's a good way for her to ingratiate herself into the sort of team, this ensemble, without it feeling too forced.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? It's because Val is he starts growing more interested in her as the movie goes on. Earl is always interested in her being with Val. Mm-hmm. And she's these people are helpful and nice. So she's just very plucky and down to help. So I think it works in that way too. I still don't think the movie passes the Bechdel test.
Probably not.
No. But maybe there's a line where Nancy says something to Reba or something like that.
Did any women speak to each other?
They did, but I think it's all just in passing. Yeah.
Oh, and then the other scene that I wanted to highlight, which is not related to the romantic subplot, but it's when the doctor and his wife, they're camping out because they're building, it's really sad.
That death is really hard.
They're building their dream house basically, and they're looking at the stars and they have the sweetest relationship and it's just so cute. And we got to go to town tomorrow to pick up the cinder blocks to finish the roof. And then she's then he's oh, but if we never finish the roof, we can have this view every night.
Looking at the stars.
Yeah. And then the scene itself is so tense and well executed and just it builds in tension so well with the radio turning on.
Yeah.
When she's because he just gets sucked into the sand. She's trying to keep him up.
She hands him like a piece of like balsa wood.
Yeah.
Just immediately snaps in half.
So he gets sucked underground. She like makes a run for the car, and she does make it, but the keys aren't in the ignition.
And she accidentally knocks over a radio, and she does not know that the sound is going to keep that graboid going after her.
Yeah. And so the like little tentacles are like all over the car, and it's like when a dog's nose is like up on the glass. You got that kind of like mucusy, smear.
Hot breath.
And then but then the entire car starts getting sucked under, and then there's a distant shot of the two headlights.
It's so good.
Pointing straight up, and then one goes out, and then the other, and I was like, that is a perfect death scene.
And it wasn't their original intent, as far as I can tell, because they talk about that scene in the commentary track, and they were saying that they just couldn't get the car more into the ground. So that was the only way they could think of to show the viewer that the car goes completely under without like the budget that they had to do that. And it's like the way that it's like the problem solving of the budget. Because there were other things they wanted to do that they couldn't get the budget for.
Sure.
But like the way that they came up with these creative, practical ways for like a viewer to be able to understand you're
the car
in the
is
distance,
fully vertical, and
the first light goes out, and then the second one, it is fully underground.
Yes.
Is so smart.
Oh, yeah, I really, really loved that scene. I was so impressed. And then when Val and Earl come across it when they're on horseback later, they can like vaguely hear like the radio. Yeah, they uncover the...
Earl goes like, oh, they must have gone to town. Their car's gone. And then Val's like, then where are the golden oldies coming from?
That's right. Yeah, that's what he said.
Where are the goddamn golden oldies coming from then?
Yeah, they brush it off, and it's like the headlight and like the license plate pointing straight up out of the ground. And then they like get the fuck out. Like the next shot is them like galloping away.
That's the only thing you can do.
I mean, there's tons of great moments like that, but I just wanted to highlight some of my favorites.
Yeah.
I do like how scared everyone acts. You know, like you can tell there's a couple people like Nestor fucks up. He's the one who like he's first on a trailer, the trailer gets knocked over, and then he like goes on top of a tire.
Oh,
and they're like, no, Nestor!
Right.
And he gets sucked through the tire, which is a great way to go. He's like the mom from the end of Nightmare on Elm Street. he goes in half and gets sucked through. But like everyone else is like pretty smart and like scared enough. You know, and that's how they know when Melvin isn't fucking around anymore, is when he seems genuinely scared.
That's true.
And he's like up on, a pole, and then it's like our heroes are smart and thoughtful, but they're not like super brave, right? I mean, like Bert and Heather, which is Reba's character, kind of are, because they've been
training for this.
Living for this shit.
Yeah.
Like they're
like a two-man militia.
Right.
And they're...
The second they kill the first graboid that they kill, they start making homemade bombs. Val's like, what are these bombs made out of? And Bert's like, household supplies in the right quantities is like basically what he says.
I loved that line. I think I wrote that down somewhere.
The script is so funny. Like it is just such a funny movie. One more fun piece of like documentary that I thought you guys would enjoy is Kevin Bacon's wife was like super pregnant. What's her name? She's
Kira Sedgwick?
Yeah. So she was like super pregnant during the filming of this, and they had to change a lot of stuff because he's like their headliner, right? They can't lose Kevin Bacon. So they had to change a lot of like the filming and locations so he would be able to get to her as soon as she went into the hospital, because they were filming in this place called like Lone Pine that was like 3 hours from LA.
Okay.
So some of the shots that are taken from inside the general store, I think were sets in LA, but like a lot of it is shot on location. But they tell a story about when Kevin Bacon is standing on that fridge that makes noise, they got a call that she had gone to labor, and he just like left, and they'd agreed on that, right? Yeah. Like they weren't going to make him stay.
Right.
But a funny story they told, and I think it was the agent of the writer and the director, who was a character, this lady. I really enjoyed listening to her talk. But she was talking about how Kevin Bacon, I guess, or his wife had talked about how in her family there was a family name that she wanted to use, and that name for a son, because I think they didn't know if they were having a son or a daughter. she wanted to name their son Makin, and Kevin Bacon was like, I'm not having a son named Makin Bacon. And I want to believe that this is true.
I also do.
And that there was a moment where Kira Sedgwick wanted to have a kid named Makin Bacon. It's like Frank Zappa could not even come up with a name that funny.
No. Oh my God, Makin Bacon.
It stuck with me.
That is so funny.
Yeah, it sounded like everyone had a good time on set, and that, Kevin Bacon was, having a good time with everyone. But that stuck with me is that, he was anxious like the whole time because they shot it pretty quickly and on not a shoestring budget, but a tight budget, right? It wasn't bloated.
Yeah.
It's not like a lot of the big blockbusters today that just keep skyrocketing. Like they had some different stunts. Like they wanted the water tower to fall down and the studio just wouldn't clear that.
Sure.
So like various things they couldn't do. But I really liked the idea of a child that could have been named Makin Bacon. Got vetoed by Kevin Bacon, who is, I would argue, like a scream queen. Because he was in The Hollow Man.
The original Friday the 13th.
In his little crop top.
Yep.
He was in Stir of Echoes.
Yeah, which is pretty good.
Yeah. But, I mean, Tremors is the best movie
he's
ever been in ever. I will say it confidently.
Yeah. I can't think of any others that I like more now. So, yeah, I will agree.
This is it.
He's a weird-looking guy. And his wife's weird-looking. So Makin Bacon would have been a weird-looking kid.
But it works.
Yeah.
I like it.
I mean, it's worked for them just fine.
Yeah.
It sure has.
They
Very
both
successful
had
people.
Great careers.
Yeah, I actually was more into Earl.
Oh,
yeah.
We talked about that.
Really? Yeah, I was like...
Now that you're...
I was like, as we're getting older, I'm looking at Fred Ward.
I think he is...
Fred Ward looking fine
he's looking
now.
really good.
He gets a
so handsome.
Straight-up hot babe in the next movie, which goes into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the franchise.
Great.
So I think I talked about this in our first failed recording, but the two writers and the director had an agent, and the four of them together created a production company called Stampede, like Entertainment. And they never said it in anything I watched, but I cannot imagine it is for any other reason than Stampede being the first line in Tremors and the way they beat the final Graboid in the first movie. And something I just thought was super sweet is it just seems like the four of them are really tight. And for the second movie, they wanted like each of them to get their own movie to direct. So one of the writers directed the second movie, and then the other writer directed the third movie.
Oh,
and then I think they might have been out by the fourth. I don't recall. But it's just like such a nice little team, where like they all work together clearly really well. Mm-hmm. And so the second movie is one that I would also recommend to anybody. Like Tremors 2 Aftershock, I think is what it's called, is just like really, let me make sure. I'm wrong so much. Yeah, Aftershocks. Right. Okay, I'm right. Is, I think, like almost as strong. Like besides the CGI, because the budget went from like $15 million to $2 million when they realized they could use CGI and go direct to home video.
And that was 1996 CGI.
It's pretty bad.
Okay.
Like I will say, but I think if you're like our age, you're fine with
You're fully inoculated against bad CGI.
I have my mRNA vaccine for dog shit CGI.
I certainly do too.
I watched Tremors. I'm trying to think of like other really bad CGI. The Day After Tomorrow, I just remember the wolves in that being some of the worst CGI.
Well, I don't think it's bad per se, but just like very dated and like low budget. I think Babylon 5.
Babylon 5 has way worse CGI.
It doesn't bother me at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's charming to me now.
Too.
I think like both of us, or I guess all three of us, do really love practical effects, right, Samantha?
I guess so.
Okay.
I think so.
Brett and I have a deep respect for practical effects.
I have a respect for it.
But it is so expensive to do. That's why people don't do it. It takes a long time to set up. I was watching them do the miniatures, because there's a whole like on the Arrow video like special Blu-ray I have, they have like a montage of all the special effects being done. Oh, it's so cool. And it's to like 90s, like almost sounded like softcore porn music, like steel drum type music of just like me watching them like blow up so many miniature graboids. Because at the end, the graboid shoots off of this, like it shoots through a cliff.
Through a cliff face,
and all of that is done with miniatures. And so it's just cool to watch that. But it's really expensive. It takes a lot of time to set up. So it's not surprising that they stopped using practical effects after the first movie, because it literally makes your movie like $13 million cheaper to use it. But I still think like the writing of the movie is really smart. I really like, there's another good small little ensemble cast. Michael Gross, who is the guy who plays Bert. Did you guys ever watch Family Ties?
Yep.
Right. So he was the dad on Family Ties, and that's like what he was known for. And it's a comedy it's a sitcom.
Yeah.
It's a family sitcom where he plays like the hippie dad.
To Michael
J. Fox is like conservative, like little Reaganite son.
Yes.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yes. And that's kind of the whole thing of it is like, oh, instead of having conservative parents with like, you know, hippie kids, they'll do the opposite. And so I used to watch that show, but he was so known from that. And he came in, and originally they did not picture someone like him at all, but they cast him against type, and it worked out so well that he is in every single fucking Tremors movie, to the point where, spoilers everyone, it does not matter. Do not watch them all unless you are like me.
Unless you have the brain worm.
Unless you have the brain graboid in your head. I think it's the seventh movie, he jumps into the mouth of the graboid to explode at the end. And I hope his character is dead, because there's nothing more you could do with Bert. Bert has the worst time. He's fully crazy, because he's already kind of nuts in the first movie.
Yeah.
But after
Reba leaves him.
So Heather leaves him off screen before the second movie starts.
Okay.
So the second movie starts with like, Earl has already spent all of his money. Val is off somewhere, I think with Rhonda. I think they're like happy having kids. Yeah, Heather leaves Bert, and a guy, like a plucky young guy, comes to recruit Earl to go
to Mexico.
See if there. I think there's graboids they think are there, and he's like the only person they know who's ever experienced one. And then he ends up later calling in Bert as backup, because there's a ton of graboids, and he's like, this is beyond my abilities. So they bring in Bert. But like Bert is in all of them. Even the one where they go back to Western times, that's number 4. People like that one. It did not work for me personally. It has some fun gimmicks, but ugh.
Can you, because I've watched 1 through 3, but go back to Western times. Is this kind of like a Back to the Future sitch?
No.
Okay, yeah, because
like,
I was
why
picturing
is it
Back to
Western?
the Future 3.
Yeah, every time I've heard you say it, I'm like, I think you've only said it twice. Both times.
I don't constantly talk about Tremors 4.
Every time you talked about Tremors 4.
I think it's called like Back to Perfection, or that's 3. Oh, God.
So
it's all blurring.
So what do you
my
mean
head.
by they go to Western times?
What?
Like, are they just like time traveling?
No.
Or it's just...
It's a prequel.
Okay, thank you.
So it's like there's like a silver mine.
And Earl's still there? Wait,
no,
not
so
Earl.
it's his
Bert.
So it's
what?
It's Bert's like ancestor, and the
It looks like Bert.
he looks well. It is. It's Michael Gross. But
Okay.
what is very funny about it, which I will give them credit for this because it's very funny, is that his character in that movie comes up on like an old timey bicycle, and he's like a dandy.
That actually sounds really funny.
So like everyone else, and there's stuff in it that's just so dumb. Like Chang's, like his ancestors are there,
sure.
and it's like they've just been here. All these people, the half of the town has just been here for like hundreds of years,
and it's still only a population of 14.
Like even less, like even fewer people.
12.5.
But it's like a bunch of like Wild Wild West facing off against predominantly like ass blasters. So I mean, it's fine. Like it's fun. Like what I was telling.
And ass blasters. That's one of the like evolutions.
Let me talk about the life cycle of a graboid.
I would love to hear it.
So in the first movie, we only encounter the large worm graboids. In the second movie, they establish that graboids get like pregnant somehow, and then they act like they're sick and dying, which this all happens in the second movie. And then they get eaten from the inside out, which is like a cool, scary scene in the second movie because they're like, what the fuck happened here? Eaten from the inside out by these things called shriekers, which are also blind, but they see through infrared. Because that's what I love about these movies is there's always like once you figure out how to beat them, because like there's a really fun montage in the second movie where they're just blowing up graboids all over the place. They have like little remote control cars that have like C4 strapped to them. Like there's so many fun gimmicks. And there's like a whole fun montage. But then of course something has to change to have a real threat.
Yes.
And so there are these streakers and they're also very smart, but they look kind of like little... almost like Velociraptor-y.
Yeah.
They're like,
your movements that you were just doing was definitely giving Velociraptor to me.
Yes.
So
they're
kind of like
thick.
hopping foot to foot almost.
They have like fat asses, big fat thighs, and then
are
like
they single?
and ready to mingle with your guts because they'll eat you. But it's like a new threat, right? Because these are on top of the ground, but there's a lot of them. And they run really fast, and they use like heat seeking, so you can't just like easily hide.
Yeah.
You can't just be still.
You can't be still because
right.
they'll run straight at you. And they kind of have like a gross like protuberance thing that comes up, which is when they're doing the heat seeking. And if they eat something, they multiply like gremlins.
Oh my gosh!
Oh
wow! There's so much to these shriekers.
Yes, and then in the third movie, they establish that the next step in the cycle are flying creatures called, well, they're called ass blasters because they like fart out flames that propel them. And they glide.
It's great.
It's a very smart, thoughtful series.
I really don't watch the next two movies now.
And then,
I know. I'm like, I definitely want to watch 2 and 3 then.
And then I think from from ass blasters, I think they lay eggs that turn back into graboids. So I think that's the life cycle. And then in the newer movies, the way they raise the stakes is just like dumb shit. Like, oh, genetically engineered.
Okay, sure.
There's one of them. Oh my God. It was so stupid, but fun. It was one of the Jamie Kennedy ones. They're like in the Arctic or Antarctica or some shit. And there's like a graboid virus.
Oh, of course.
It's just... They know they're stupid. It's fine. They didn't hire Jamie Kennedy because they were going for like high art.
Right.
They're just really fun.
They didn't hire Malibu's Most Wanted for the prestige.
They did not, I would assume. But yeah, no, they're I think a strong franchise. Because like Brett and I love a lot of horror movies that have really expansive, pathetic franchises. Some are more upsetting than others.
Yes.
Like I think of something like Halloween has had some high highs and low lows. Same with Friday the 13th. Same with, I would say, we said Chucky is probably one that's been really
consistent.
strong.
Not that there haven't been some stronger and weaker entries, but
like something that kind of bugs me maybe is that like one of the curses of Tremors, I think, is that you can't really sell merchandise for this shit. Because I compare it to something like Jurassic Park, where Jurassic Park is very similar in a lot of ways as a movie, insofar as it's a small group of people dealing with big monsters. But those movies became such huge blockbusters that every single one has got a theatrical release, and they are still so huge. Like, little kids know who Blue is. And that's not because those movies are good. They're bad. But, like, I would say that those movies are bad and stupid in ways that the Tremors movies are not. Because I think the Tremors movies are being stupid and fun on purpose.
Right. Jurassic World movies are just like, they're just actually bad. And like
every single Jurassic Park movie has tried to be Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And they have all failed.
Yes.
Like, this is my spicy opinion, but people our age are nostalgic for Lost World, but that is not a good movie.
No, I rewatched it recently, and there's some fun parts.
Yes.
But yeah,
absolutely.
It's just kind of a slog.
I wouldn't say it's like a terrible, unwatchable movie.
No.
But like, I am personally a Jurassic Park 3 apologist because I think it's bad.
It's fun.
I think it's bad in ways that are really fun. Like, they're throwing like piss grenades and like
there's like cell phone that rings that like
a Spinosaurus swallowed a cell phone that does a tile jingle. Like, I just think that movie is really fun.
I thought it was fun.
I think it's a really fun movie. Again, like when there's a scene where Dr. Grant like hallucinates a raptor.
Alan.
That says Alan.
It's on a helicopter.
On a private jet.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's just, I've seen it a lot.
I think I've not seen it since theater.
Well, people love to say it's like, oh, it's so terrible, it's so terrible. It's like, yes, but like, it's not worse than Lost World. Like, Lost World The only dinosaur that gets like killed by anyone is the young teenage girl does gymnastics and kicks it into being impaled. Like, I'm sorry.
I find that scene so embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
I really do.
Like, there are high highs to that movie, but there are low lows. But okay, let's talk about, is it gay? How gay is it? Tell me.
I don't think Tremors is all that gay. I mean, there's like a bromance, but like it's so not.
I've heard people say it's homoerotic, and I kind of have to disagree.
I don't know if I see it. Yeah, they just seem like good buddies who are comfortable with each other. I don't know if I get
a little annoyed when people say, oh, these two guys are friends, so they're gay for each other. Like, I'm sorry.
Me too.
Men can be friends with each other and care about each other without it being gay.
And even be affectionate with each other and it not be gay. Like, that's just friendship. And some people express it differently. Yeah, I actually didn't really pick up on really much of any homoeroticism in the movie.
Not from the Graboids either.
Well, they're a bit...
So can I tell you more secret lore?
Yes.
So
absolutely.
Because I'm like, that's more what I'm thinking. I'm like, how gay like are the Graboids?
So originally, because again, these writers are pretty smart and nerdy and they want to think things through.
Yeah.
So when they were designing the Graboids, they're like, well, they would definitely have something that would be like covering their mouths to protect it. And the studio had to step in and say, we are not having
foreskin.
Yes, they're like, we are not having people run around being chased by giant dicks.
Ugh.
So the Graboids almost had foreskin, but luckily they got circumcised. They're still phallic.
Yes.
Very phallic.
They're pretty phallic. Yeah, not all that gay.
No.
But it's not a 0. It's like 1 severed tentacle dick out of 5, I would say, on gay. Maybe 1.5.
Yeah, I would give it 2 rumbling refrigerators out of 7.
1.5 pogo sticks out of 5.
You're such a coward. You always go right between us.
Did you just say 2?
Yeah.
But 2 out of 7.
You said 2 out of 7, though.
Whatever. None of this matters.
No, Sam just said what I said.
I added 2. I was thinking about a 0.5, but since I said pogo stick, I was like, let's have a full pogo stick and then another half.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's math right there.
That's math.
That's math.
That's STEM. That's...
STEM for Samantha.
Samantha in STEM.
Samantha in STEM.
And I support it. I think that's cool and brave.
That's what the S stands for.
Yes. And then, shall we also do our next thing? What is the loathing of it all?
Is it what did we loathe? Or
yeah, like either what did you loathe in the movie or what did you loathe about the the experience?
Is
I
it
think
loathing?
It can be anything.
How loath is it?
How loath
Tell
is
me.
It? Yes. We're still workshopping, okay?
Brett, what do you loathe?
Yeah, good question. There's not a lot to loathe in this movie, I gotta say. I don't know if I actually would want it, but based on what you just said, I think my pick is going to be that the Graboids are circumcised. I would have liked to have seen the original vision.
Yes.
So that's what I loathe. Well, that's my answer, not yours.
Okay.
Release the uncut?
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to add in some air horns right here.
Well, I believe it is a completely perfect movie, so I loathe nothing about the movie itself. I just loathe that I've not seen it in theaters.
I actually, when I got this 4K Blu-ray, I reached out to local newly deceased theater chain, Alamo Drafthouse. I emailed them and I was like, can I rent a room to screen this? And they said, do you have the rights to show this movie? And I was like, oh, fuck you. That's Tremors, baby.
That's Tremors, and man, yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time.
And if we haven't sold you on watching it by now, then you just don't like to have fun or enjoy life.
Go watch The Christmas Prince or whatever. Go watch your dumb shit.
Whatever that movie was we saw that I can't remember the name of still with Glenn Powell.
Anyone But You.
Anyone But You.
That movie was weird.
So weird.
That was a weird movie.
I look forward to not watching it sometime.
Don't watch it.
Well, Mel, where can people find us?
So you can email us at queerandloathingpod@gmail.com. That's AND. You can find us on Instagram at Queer and Loathing Pod. We do little like teasers on Thursdays to give you a little hint, but not too subtle, just to allow you to watch it maybe before it comes out, before our episode comes out, I mean. And then we're all on Letterboxd now, but none of y'all followed me, so I don't give a shit about you guys anymore.
You don't deserve the hater tot.
You don't deserve my content. But if you do, what is your handle?
666 bitch.
And what's yours, Samantha?
I think it's And I'm Samantha. I haven't been on since I made it. I hate to get on it.
I use it aggressively, but not for you guys. It's for myself. I'm not insecure about it. I'm fine.
As you can all tell, it's very fine. Until next time, I'm queer.
I'm Loathing.
And I'm Samantha.
Don't get grabbed by an oid.